Okay, let's talk about two social habits that so many of us have, but we rarely talk about. You know the ones: absolutely hating small talk and saying sorry for, well, just about everything. But what if I told you these aren't personality flaws? What if they're actually clues to a hidden blueprint inside you? Have you ever been in a situation where people thought you were being rude, but really you were just quiet? Or has anyone ever told you you apologize way too much? Well, get ready for a totally different perspective, because we're about to see how these things aren't weaknesses at all. In fact, they might just be signs of a deeply adaptive and powerful inner world. So often, we get hit with these labels, right? You're antisocial, awkward, maybe insecure, or even weak. But that's just the surface story. The reality, the psychological truth, is way more fascinating. What people see as a flaw is actually a function. It's a mind that's built for deep processing, or maybe a strategy you developed to create harmony and safety. These aren't character flaws, they are powerful adaptations. Let's break it down. All right, first up, let's dive into the mind that just cannot stand small talk. And the big idea here is that this isn't about you being against people. It's about your mental architecture. Seriously, it's not really a choice. It's about how you're wired. Have you ever left a party that was full of chit-chat and just felt completely wiped out? Yeah, that exhaustion is very, very real. For certain minds, trying to process all that superficial chatter takes up a massive amount of energy. It's actually harder than digging into one single complex idea. And this brings us to a really cool concept. It's called cognitive processing preference. Now, this is not a disorder, not at all. It's just a cognitive style. It basically means your brain is optimized for depth. It loves abstract ideas, it loves layered thinking, which, is the exact opposite of what small talk gives you. So, what does a mind that's wired for depth really look like in action? Well, it's not just about avoiding small talk. It's about actively craving those deep, meaningful conversations. That quiet time you take isn't about hiding from the world. It's for processing everything and getting some emotional clarity. In that context, you can see why superficial chatter just feels like a total waste of your precious cognitive fuel. Okay, now let's look at our second blueprint, the automatic "I'm sorry." We are so often taught that this is a sign of weakness, that you shouldn't do it. But what if it's not? What if it's actually an incredibly effective survival skill that you learned a long, long time ago? When you apologize for just taking up space, or, and this is a classic, when someone bumps into you and you say, "I'm sorry," yeah, that's rarely about actual guilt. A better way to think of it is like a preemptive peace offering. It's an unconscious strategy to de-escalate any potential conflict before it even has a chance to start. It's all about your own emotional safety. So where does a habit like this even come from? Well, it often traces all the way back to childhood. If you grew up in a really high-pressure or unpredictable environment, you might have learned that the safest role you could play was the easy child, the one who never added any more stress to the situation. Over time, that role creates a core belief, something like, "My safety depends on me being useful and low maintenance." And that belief, formed in childhood, turns into an adult's automatic peacekeeping apology. So you might be wondering, how do these two completely different behaviors, hating small talk and saying sorry, connect? Well, here's the link. They are not flaws that you need to fix. They are functions. They are clues that tell a story about your own unique inner architecture. Let's just reframe this once and for all. Hating small talk? It's not being snobby or antisocial. It's a fundamental need for cognitive depth. Apologizing all the time? It's not weakness or insecurity. It's a learned adaptation for safety. And when you start to see your habits this way, it changes everything. You move from self-criticism to genuine self-understanding. So here's the bottom line. Your social habits, the ones you might feel a little weird about, they aren't random. They are logical. They are designed responses that your system created to help you navigate your world, both internal and external. They served a purpose. They were built to keep you safe and sane. Okay, so what do you do with all this information? Where do you go from here? Well, you start learning to read your own blueprint. It's time to kind of step away from all that self-judgment and step toward a real curiosity about what your habits are actually trying to tell you. And I really want to leave you with this thought. Try to think of your habits not as some final judgment on who you are as a person, but think of them as a map that shows where you've been and the kind of terrain you've had to cross. Every "I'm sorry," every quiet moment you take for yourself, it's just a landmark on that map. And that brings us to a final and I think really powerful question for you to think about. If these two so-called flaws are actually functions, what else have you been criticizing yourself for? What other quirks might just be your superpowers in disguise? Now, that is a blueprint worth exploring.